This video is for 7.1, Measures of Center. This is a worksheet. You can download the PDF or get it from class. The PDF link is located on PowerSchool. In this one, we're going to be dealing with the mean, median, mode, and the range, I think. Range is just the difference between the biggest and the smallest. And the mean is just when you add all of the stuff up and then divide by the number of numbers. And this is represented with an X bar. Okay, that's what it's called. And what it is it's an X with just a bar on top. That's what mean is. Median is the numerical set. It's basically the middle number. Okay, you got to put the numbers in order from smallest to biggest, and it's the middle number. Mode is the number that appears the most often. So in your list, the number that shows up the most is mode. And standard deviation is a statistical equation to find out what normal is. It's kind of a way to find normalcy. So let's go through and we'll show you how to do all of this. In number 1, we have two parts, A and B. And we're asked to find the mean, median, mode of the data set. Okay, let's start with mean. The mean. In order to get the mean, we have to add all of these up. Okay, so we take 2 plus 5 plus 16 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 4 and plus 4. So let's add all those up. And to do that, I would just use just a basic simple calculator. 2 plus 5 plus 16 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4, and we get 45. Now we take that number and divide it by however many numbers there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. So we're going to take 45 divided by 9, and that gives us 5. Okay, so the average, or the mean and average are the same thing. So the mean equals 5. Okay, now I'm going to erase this so it's a little easier to see the numbers again. The median. In the median, what you want is the middle number. So they've got to be in order from smallest to biggest. So I'm going to put them in that order. 2, and that's that one. Another 2. There's that one. Another 2. Now a 3. And a 4. 4. There's those 2. And a 5, 7, 16. Now they're in order from smallest to biggest. And what do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what's my middle number? If I go in 4 here and 4 here, that leaves me with just one number right in the middle here. My middle number is 4. So my median is 4. Now, finally, we're on to the mode. Which number appears the most often? There's 2, that one appears 3 times. 1, 3, 1, 2 4s, a 5, a 7, a 16. So we see that 3 is the magic number of times, excuse me. So 2 appears 3 times. So the mode is 2. And that's how you find each one of them. Now, which one best represents the data? In this case, there's an outlier. Okay? This outlier right here will affect the average, the mean. Okay? The best way to find out what the average number is to ignore the outlier. Anytime you have an outlier, so if I have an outlier, then I want to use the median. If I have no outlier, then chances are I want to use the mean. In this case, I have an outlier, 16, so I would say the best one to use would be the median. All right. Number 2. The table shows the masses of 8 gorillas. Identify the outlier. So which one is quite a bit different? I mean, they're all a little bit different, but if we see right here, that one is extremely different, okay, by quite a bit. So the outlier is 44. How does this affect the mean median mode? What skews the mean, okay, and that's what it's called, skews the mean, but it has no effect on the median or mode. So no effect on median or mode. Okay, describe the possible explanation for an outlier. What do you think it could be? Chances are it's probably a baby gorilla, right? Something like that. So, use your own words to describe it. The heights of the members of two girls' basketball teams are shown. Find the range of each of the heights. Now, the range, you just take the highest minus the lowest. Okay, so in this case, Team A, what's my highest? 75, 78, seems like 78. And what's my lowest? 58, 48, looks like 48. So what's my range? The range is 30. And that's just saying that they're about 30 apart. They're within 30 of each other. And then you do the same thing for the Team B. You want the highest minus the lowest. And that's your range. Okay? Compare your results right here. Tell me why. Compare using words. Something like the range in Team A is greater, meaning they have a higher variety of heights or something like that. Okay, just compare it and tell me what you think that means. Number 4, consider the data in exercise 3. Okay, so that's the basketball heights. Find the standard deviation. All right, the standard deviation can be tricky if you don't have a calculator. So let's go through it piece by piece. Standard deviation, the first thing we need to do is find the mean. Okay, so on Team A, what's our mean? To find that, I'm going to add up all the numbers. So I have 58 plus 75 plus 60 plus 48 plus 56, 78, 60, 57, 54, and 59. And I'm going to divide that by how many numbers do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to divide that by 10, and we get 60.5. So my average, or my mean, which is represented by an x with a bar on it, is 60.5. Okay, now I take each one of those numbers and subtract the mean. So let's do that here. What's 58 minus 60.5? 58 minus 60.5, that gives me negative 2.5. Okay, now the next one, 75 minus 60.5 is 14.5. Minus 60.5 is negative 0.5. 48 minus 60.5 is negative 12.5. There we are. All I did for each one of these is I took this number and subtracted the mean. So each time I just took one number at a time and minus. Okay, so just subtract each number minus the mean. Now with this, what you want to do is now square each of those. So each number gets squared. And I'm just going to do that quickly in the with the calculator. Don't try to do it in your head. All of them are going to be positive because you got to square the negative. Okay, so squaring a negative is positive. So that first one is 6.25. And then 14.5 squared is 210.25. Negative 0.5 squared is 0.25. And I'll just fast forward through this. I'm just squaring each one of them. And there we have all the numbers squared. So I just did negative 2.5 times negative 2.5, 14.5 squared, negative 0.5 squared. And all of these numbers need to be positive. Okay, they cannot be negative numbers. So now that we have all of those, we need to find the average of those. To find the average, what we need to do is simply add them and then divide by the number of numbers. And that would be 10 numbers. So let's go ahead and add them all up. 6.25 to 10.25, 0.25, 156.25, 20.25, lots of 25s in there, 306.25, 0.25, 12.25, 42.25, and 2.25. Okay, so we have 756.5 divided by 10. So the average for all of these numbers, the mean, is 75.65. And to find the standard deviation, take the square root of that. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the square root button. And this is just a calculator on my computer. I mean, you can find the square root button on a lot of calculators. And the square root is my standard deviation. So 8 point, I'm just going to say 7, because this is going to make that round up to 10, which would make that round up to 10 or 7. So 8.7 is my standard deviation. .7. Now, what does that mean? To interpret our result, what does it mean that the standard deviation is 8.7? It means that normal is about 8.7 in either directions times 2. 2 standard deviations is normal. So that would mean that any score plus or minus from the mean, 60.5, what's 8.7 times 2? That'd be 17.4, I believe, but let me do it on a calculator. Yep, 17.4. Okay. So what that means is that 60.5 plus or minus, meaning either direction, 17.4 is normal. Outside of that, so outside of that range, it's not normal. Okay, it's an abnormal result, higher or lower, whatever. But that's where most of the results are going to lie. So now do the other one. Remember, just the number minus the mean. Then you square the means. Then you find the average or the mean of the means of mean squared. So in other words, this one, you find the average of those, step 2, and then you take the square root of that answer. So that is how you find the standard deviation. And part C, it wants to know what can we conclude? In other words, what's the difference between the standard deviations and what does that mean? Number 5, find the values of measures shown when each value of the data set is increased by 8. So if I have a whole bunch of numbers and the mean is 42, what happens if every single number is increased by 8? Well, the mean is going to go up by 8. What about the range? The range isn't going to change at all because the lowest and highest both go up by 8. The median, the middle number is still going to be the middle number because they all increase by 8, so the median is going to increase by 8. What about the mode? The number that appears the most often, it's also going to increase by 8 because all those numbers increase by 8. And finally, standard deviation. Give me your guess. I don't want you to try to figure it out, but just give me your guess of what you think the standard deviation is. It's, remember, the distance from the mean, so chances are it's not going to change very much, is it? So Anyway, that's the worksheet. Do the best you can. Turn in what you can. Use any resources you need to. Hopefully this helps.